Soft morning light drifts through the kitchen skylight, pooling over Emma's tired shoulders as she butters toast for two. The house still smells of her father's cedar closet and the lavender soap her mother has favored since 1992. She plates eggs beside fresh orange slices, humming the lullaby Dad sang off-key, pretending life can be folded back into routine now that the funeral flowers have wilted. Upstairs, the attic hatch yawns open from yesterday's inventory, its square shadow stretching down the hallway like an unblinking eye. Later, while rain taps the gutters, Emma climbs the folding ladder to gather donation boxes. Dust swirls, catching in her throat. She steadies herself against a beam Dad planed by hand the summer she turned 10. Between stacked quilts, she notices an unlabeled shoebox, sealed with brittle tape the color of faded bruise. Something about its neatness, too deliberate for hurried storage, makes her pause, pulse thudding in the hollow of her wrist. She carries the box to the guest bed, slices the tape with Mom's old nail file. Inside rests a charcoal gray Nokia, model she recognizes from yellowed family photos of Mom in high-waisted jeans. The screen glows alive when she presses the stiff power button, battery icon improbably full. One notification blinks, one unheard voicemail, time-stamped the night before Dad's heart attack. The hallway clock ticks loud. Somewhere downstairs the refrigerator hums, ordinary and immense. Emma's thumb hovers, breath shallow, as the attic dimmer switch flickers once, twice, then steadies, like a warning the house itself refuses to voice. She lifts the phone to her ear, rain drumming harder against the roof, and presses play. The attic exhales dust as Emma's knees settle on the warped plank floor. The Nokia, heavier than memory allows, lies across her palm like a cold bird with one last heartbeat. Outside, thunder rolls over the cul-de-sac, shaking the single bulb overhead so that its light swims across the cramped rafters. She feels the pulse in her throat sync with the phone's tiny green backlight, two erratic metronomes trying to match. Her thumb finds the rubber nub of the speaker. A single bar of signal flickers, impossible after 30 years, as though the house has stretched an invisible antenna toward the storm. When she presses play, the attic seems to contract, insulation crackles, the air thins. A hiss, then her mother's 25-year-old voice, soft, urgent, soaked in hospital fluorescence, slides into her ear canal like chilled mercury. The newborn's cry that follows is thin, threadbare, yet it stitches itself beneath Emma's ribs before it dies against the roof beams. Emma's shoulders jerk backward, as if yanked by an unseen hand. The phone drops, clatters, but keeps playing. Voicemail on loop, the cry now a whimper that knows its own ending. Her lungs forget their rhythm. She feels the floor tilt, sees her father's labeled boxes slide an inch toward her. War medals, tax returns, the false story of her birth. Sweat beads along her hairline, mixing with attic grit, stinging her eyes until the world blurs into a brown haze. She grapples for a beam, splinters slicing her fingertips, needing the pain to prove she is still embodied, not some rewound cassette herself. The rain becomes a roar. Every droplet drums her mother's confession deeper into the bone. A sudden metallic taste floods her mouth, adrenaline, or perhaps the flavor of a life unspooling. She thinks of the senator's face on campaign posters downtown, the dignified sorrow in his eyes each Memorial Day, and realizes that sorrow has always been her own face reflected back. Emma forces one breath, then another, tasting sawdust and electricity. She pockets the phone, the message still cycling like a heartbeat she can't quiet, and crawls toward the folding ladder. Her legs tremble so violently the steps rattle, threatening to give way before she reaches the hallway below. Somewhere inside her chest, the newborn's cry keeps echoing, unanswered, as she descends into the house that no longer knows her name. Emma moves through the kitchen like a ghost, the Nokia burning cold against her thigh. The house smells of her father's aftershave. No, the man she buried yesterday. Wood smoke and bergamot, a scent that once meant safety and now feels like a locked gate. She lowers herself into his chair, fingertips tracing the worn armrests that guided her first steps, and every groove seems to ask, "Who danced you forward, child?" The voicemail is a bullet lodged in bone. She hears it even when it isn't playing, the newborn's thin wail braiding through her pulse until her temples throb. She thinks of the hospital bracelet she saved in her baby book, the one her mother snipped off and kissed, calling it a paper halo. Was that kiss meant for someone else? Upstairs, a floorboard creaks, the familiar complaint of a woman pacing, and Emma imagines her mother counting the 30 years between lullabies and lies, each footstep a bead on an abacus of guilt. She opens the contacts list on her own phone. Senator Thomas R. Havorson, Capitol Switchboard, public email. Information she found in 3 clicks after the attic gave up its prize. His official photo shows a silver-haired man with her same wide-set eyes, smiling as though cameras are kin, and the resemblance feels like a hand closing around her lungs. She drafts the message, 2 sentences, no greeting, no proof, only the raw date and time of the voicemail, and her thumb hovers, both executioner and supplicant. Outside, wind rattles the maple her father planted the week she was born, leaves applauding a life story whose pages are suddenly blank. She remembers him teaching her to ride a bike, running behind with his palms steady on the seat, promising he'd never let go. She hears the echo of that promise now, a paper cut across every memory. If she sends the email, his Senate portrait becomes a wanted poster. If she deletes it, she carries the secret like wet cement in her chest, each heartbeat leaving a heavier print. The Nokia vibrates once, low battery, yet the voicemail autoplays through the denim, the newborn's cry rising into the kitchen where family photographs still grin, unaware. Emma stands, chair legs scraping, and walks toward the front door, her shadow stretching down the hallway like a question mark nobody can answer yet. The attic stairs creak beneath her weight as Emma descends, the Nokia clenched in her palm like a loaded gun. The voicemail has stopped, but its echo lingers. Her mother's whisper, the infant's cry, both now stitched into the lining of her lungs. She does not go to the kitchen. She does not look at the photographs. She turns left into the study, where her father's old computer hums with the patience of a thing that never expected to be needed again. The screen flickers awake. She plugs in the phone. No SIM, no cloud, just the brittle memory of 1994. But the inbox is there, 32 text messages, all unread, all from the same number. A name she doesn't recognize, DK. She clicks. The first message is dated the day she was born. You're not alone. I'm outside room 4B. Don't let them take him. The second, they're calling him Emma. I signed nothing. We can still run. The third, I love you. Forever if I have to. Her throat tightens, not from tears but from the sheer weight of breath. She scrolls faster. The language shifts, hope to panic to resignation. The final message, sent 3 days after her birth, reads, I'll love her enough for both of us. Go live your life. I deleted your number. But the number wasn't deleted. It was only silenced. She opens a new tab, types the number into a search bar. Area code, Washington, D.C. The name that appears makes her stomach dip, Senator Daniel Keating. The photo is recent, silver-haired, eyes the same almond shape as hers, mouth set in the same uncertain line she sees in every mirror. One daughter deceased at birth. A foundation in her name. A bill on neonatal health care sitting in committee. A man who built a life on the grave of a child who never died. Emma's fingers hover. She opens an email. types the address listed on his public site. Subject line, Dad. She attaches the voicemail file. The newborn's cry, her own voice before it had a name. She stares at the screen until the pixels blur. Outside, a car door slams. Her mother's voice drifts up from the driveway, frail and searching. Emma does not answer. She clicks Save Draft, closes the laptop, and slips the phone into her pocket. The Nokia vibrates once more. The voicemail autoplays, softer now, as if whispering only to her. The hallway stretches ahead like a timeline she hasn't decided to enter. The attic air still clings to Emma's coat as she descends the narrow stairs, each creak beneath her boots sounding like a verdict. In the foyer, her mother's silhouette trembles against the stained glass door, coat half-buttoned, eyes lifting toward the landing. Emma stops 3 steps above her, the height difference suddenly feeling ordained, as though the staircase itself has become a DNA chart plotting who stands where. She draws the Nokia from her pocket. Its green screen glows between them like a coal that refuses to cool. No words are exchanged, but the silence thickens with the remembered cadence of the whisper. He's yours, not his. The newborn's cry seems to echo off the wainscoting, though the speaker is muted now, a ghost relegated to memory. Margaret's denial arrives first, fragile as spun sugar. She shakes her head, mouth forming soundless syllables that collapse before they reach the air. One gloved hand reaches for the banister, fingers searching for the stability her voice can't claim. Emma remains motionless, letting the stillness indict. In the kitchen, the grandfather clock coughs up a half-chime, the pendulum stalling mid-beat as though even the house is holding its breath. Margaret's gaze drops to the phone, then to her daughter's boots, unable to complete the journey upward. 30 years of rehearsed composure crumple in increments, shoulders folding forward, knees buckling until she sits on the 3rd stair, eyes fixed on the pattern in the runner as if the faded roses might offer sanctuary. The confession, when it detonates, is barely a whisper, yet it rattles the picture frames. Margaret's hands press against her ears, not to block the truth but to hold it in, as though releasing it fully will evaporate them both. She nods once, twice, the motion scraping decades of varnish from her composure. Emma watches the metamorphosis, mother into stranger, keeper into culprit, feeling her own ribs vibrate with a sorrow that predates language. The story spills out in fragments. A storm-darkened hospital corridor, 2 bassinets, a grieving senator down the hall, the silent covenant with a night nurse who later disappeared to another state. Each detail lands like a match in dry leaves, igniting ancestral grief Emma never knew she carried. In the study, Emma later opens her laptop. The saved draft glows, cursor blinking beside the senator's public email. Subject line, Dad. She attaches the voicemail file, 34 seconds that could topple a dynasty of approval ratings. Outside the window, dusk drapes the neighborhood in bruised lavender. Inside, the Nokia rests against her palm, still warm, as though the past itself maintains a pulse. She hovers her thumb over send, hearing in the hush her mother's earlier plea, "Protect him, protect me," entwined with her own unvoiced need to be claimed. The phone vibrates again, autoplaying the cry that is and isn't hers, the sound looping like a question neither woman can answer. Emma's shadow stretches across the wall, superimposed on family photos that suddenly feel like jury exhibits. She does not press the button, yet she does not withdraw. Instead, she breathes, counting heartbeats, suspended between ruin and mercy while the screen brightness dims, seconds bleeding into the next unknowable chapter. Chapter 5, The Threshold. The marble corridor outside the senator's office hums with the hushed efficiency of power. Staffers murmur into headsets. Briefcases click shut like locks on vaults. Emma stands apart, a solitary figure beneath the oil portrait of a man she has never met, yet whose cheekbones shadow her own. In her pocket, the Nokia rests warm as a living thing, its cracked screen cycling through the same 3-second waveform. The newborn's first cry, her mother's trembling confession, the silence that followed. She has rehearsed this moment for 3 sleepless nights, drafting subject lines, deleting them, resurrecting others. The email open on her phone contains only 5 words below the title Dad. I need to tell you everything. A single attachment. The voicemail file, 17 seconds that could crater a lifetime of public service. Her thumb hovers. She notices the tremor traveling from wrist to fingertip, the same tremor that gripped her mother's hands 30 years ago as she passed a swaddled stranger to a grieving couple. Emma imagines the senator's face aging in real time when he hears the cry he was denied, how campaign posters might curl at the edges, how headlines would brand him the bastard senator, how donors would retreat like tide from a beached thing. Yet she also sees the other timeline, the voicemail buried with the Nokia in some future box, her own children someday asking why their eyes match a stranger's on C-SPAN. The elevator dings. Footsteps approach, hers fade S. The screen auto-dims again, battery at 2%, time itself thinning. Emma's shadow merges with the portrait's frame, 2 profiles, 1 truth. She inhales the antiseptic air of capitals and delivery rooms alike, then whispers to the empty hall. What does a daughter owe the father who never knew she existed?